Hello, now we have reached our final chapter of Daisy Dawson. It's called Daisy's Magic. Now Daisy, called her mother as Daisy danced down the garden path and swung around the gatepost. Don't dawdle and don't be late. The sun shone brightly from a cloudless sky, and somewhere among the green leaves a blackbird sang a song about buttercups and rainbows. Don't worry, Mum, Daisy called back over her shoulder. Daisy Dawson is on her way. She looked at her watch and saw that there was still plenty of time before school. The family had spent the weekend away staying with her grandparents, and now she was desperate to see Boom again and show him what she had got for him. She crossed the road carefully and ran up the path towards the field where she found Meadowsweet grazing peacefully in the morning sun. Hello, Meadowsweet, said Daisy happily. Where is everyone this morning? Meadowsweet shook her head and snorted. Then she bent down and began tugging at the grass. Hey, Meadowsweet, said Daisy. Aren't you talking to me today? She ain't called Meadowsweet, said a voice behind her. She called Dobbin. Daisy turned around to see the farmer coming up the lane. Reckon you should be in school learning something useful, young un, he said as he passed. Not wasting your time talking to dumb animals. As Daisy watched the grumpy old farmer walk away up the path, she suddenly felt completely alone, as though the ground had opened up and swallowed everything she ever believed in. It's time to wake up, whispered the voice in her head. They were only dreams. None of it was real. They were only dreams. In the silence that followed, Daisy blinked back tears and felt her happiness evaporate like morning mist. For the first time in her life, she began to suspect that things people said about her were true, that she spent too much time living in an imaginary world that didn't really exist. Suddenly, it was obvious to her, as clear as the sunlight that shone through the trees. Her adventures with the animals had been dreams, nothing more. Meadowsweet was just a horse called Dobbin, and everyone knew that horses couldn't talk. And so, as Daisy began to wander back along the path towards school, she decided that the time had come to stop believing in her dreams. It was time to grow up and join the real world. From now on, she would listen. She would be good. She would be on time. Hey, Poppet, called a familiar voice. Going so soon? Daisy stopped and frowned. Then she shook her head and began walking again. Stop it, she told herself. Grow up. Daisy, my love, called the voice behind her. Where are you going? Daisy turned and saw that the white mare was leaning over the gate staring at her. Meadowsweet? She asked, hardly daring to hope. The mare nodded. Yes, of course, dear. Who did you think it was? Daisy was confused. But when I spoke to you just now, you didn't answer. Well, of course not, my lovely, replied Meadowsweet. I could hardly have a chat with you while that silly old farmer was standing there, could I? Dobbin, indeed. Daisy suddenly felt as though her heart was going to burst. She ran back up the path, flung her arms around Meadowsweet's nose and kissed her. Well now, said Meadowsweet, her breath warm in Daisy's ear. That's more like my Daisy. Then she glanced over Daisy's shoulder and said, Look, there's someone else to see you. When Daisy turned around, she saw that Boom was sitting in the lane gazing up at her with his serious brown eyes. Boom, she cried. Hello, Daisy, he said in a voice that was deep and slow and kind. I woke up early this morning and thought I'd wonder if my favourite little girl would like some company on her way to school. Daisy smiled and thought that she had never been so happy in all her life. That would be just lovely, she said. But before I go, I have something for you. For me? Asked Boom. Then after a moment's thought, he added, Has it got ham in it? No, said Daisy, reaching into a satchel, but I think you'll like it anyway. She pulled out a small tag on a silver chain and held it up for Boom to see. What is it? He asked. It's a name tag, said Daisy, kneeling down and fastening the chain around his neck. It's got your name on the front and my name and telephone number on the back. If the dog warden ever sees you again, he'll think you belong to me and he'll leave you alone. Boom looked up at Daisy. Do I? He asked shyly. Do you what, Boom? Do I belong to you? Daisy put her arms around him. Friends belong to one another, she said. Isn't that right, Meadowsweet? Meadowsweet nodded. It's the best sort of belonging there is. Boom rested his chin contentedly in Daisy's lap, and for a few moments all was silent except for the gentle humming of the bees. Then suddenly he pricked up his ears and barked twice. What is it, Boom? Said Daisy, stroking his head. What's the matter? Oh, nothing really. I just think we ought to be going, that's all. But why? Asked Daisy. Because the school bell is ringing. Uh-oh, said Daisy. I'm going to be late again, aren't I? She stuck her bottom lip out and blew so that her fringe puffed up in the air. Meadowsweet, do you mind if I ask you something before I go? Not at all, said Meadowsweet. Ask me anything. Do you think I'll always be able to talk to you, or do you think it's some kind of magic that might disappear one day? I don't know, said Meadowsweet gently, but what I do know is that whenever we talk, the magic seems to come in from inside of you. It's part of who you are, Daisy Dawson, and that is a very rare thing. You must always look after it and keep it close to your heart. Thank you, Meadowsweet, said Daisy, kissing the old mare lightly on the nose. I'll try. Then she hitched up her satchel and ran away down the hot, dusty lane towards the gates of Nettle Green Primary School with her best friend Boom by her side. And that is the end. I hope you enjoyed it. I love that book. I went on a course once for teachers and the guy who wrote the book was there and he read some of the book, and ever since then I've just always loved his books. If you like it and you'd like more, there are some other ones to collect. There's Daisy Dawson in the Secret Pool, Daisy Dawson and the Big Freeze, Daisy Dawson at the Seaside, and Daisy Dawson at the Farm. So those ones just there. Don't know if it's focusing. So there's 4 more that you could put on your birthday list or your Christmas list if you liked it. Anyway, I've just set up a new Padlet for Chestnut class. All the other classes are doing them, so we've joined the gang as well. So any of the stories that we've been reading on YouTube, then you use the website to go onto the Padlet and you can comment on there things that you really liked, things that you didn't like, characters that you liked, and what your favourite parts of the story were. Okay, so please check it out. Anyway, take care. Bye.